My name's James Ferraro from the Ferraro Law Firm. We're based here in Florida. We are primarily a toxic tort litigation firm. Our firm has been involved in this litigation since 2018. We're a member of the Plaintiffs' Executive Committee in the multi-district litigation. So that is a centralized proceeding in South Carolina that involves cases similar to this from across the country. There have been several developments as of late, primarily and most importantly are various federal regulations from the EPA regarding these chemicals. Now, important to the city and part of our representation will encompass analyzing and working with Deltona Water Department to see what their claims are for two different settlements related to 3M and DuPont. Deltona is possibly classified as what's called a Phase 2 claimant because they tested after June of 2023, like most of the country has. Another part of our representation will also entail filing a lawsuit against other defendants and also looking at other claims, not only for the drinking water, but for soil. So we're going to do a full analysis of what those claims may look like. Our retention is on a contingency fee basis. So again, if you don't know what that means, the city does not come out of pocket for a dime. We pay all the expenses. We only make a recovery if the city makes a recovery. Try to keep it short and sweet, but if you have any questions, happy to answer.
Commissioner Avila-Vasquez.
Thank you, Mayor. So do you have an idea of what this fee will be or what we will look like that at the end we will be responsible for?
Yes, we have a proposed retainer and it's at 15%, which I could tell you a contingency fee, a normal contingency fee is usually anywhere from 33 1/3 to 40%. Now, in government representation, which we specialize in, you're usually seeing a retainer fee around 25%. So I could tell you that 15% is pretty much as low as it goes. We represent several other municipalities throughout Florida, and they all have the same fee arrangement.
And that's 15% of whatever the city recoups, right?
That's correct. That's correct. And again, the city doesn't come out of pocket for any costs associated with the litigation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Harriet.
Are there any areas in the city that you've identified as potentially contaminated?
Well, where we would look, anywhere where training has been conducted using AFFF, so anywhere that the fire department has used it in the past, we look at those areas. But the simple, and I could talk about this topic for hours, when you look at just hydrogeology, just for Florida in general, where the water is pulled from groundwater sources from the Floridian aquifer, that could receive contaminants from a whole host of areas, air, water, you name it, and that could come not just from what you'd call a point source, like an actual location such as an airport or a fire training facility. So it matters. It's important to look at those areas, but in a certain respect, it won't matter. But yes, fire departments, nearby airports, things of that nature.
For the record, have you guys seen any testing or anything in our drinking water that would lead you to believe that it's contaminated?
Yes, I mean, there was some sample. So there's something out now called UCMR5, which requires all systems across the country that service more than 3,000 individuals to test for 29 different types of PFAS. Deltona has done that testing, and it has shown low levels, but above what the new EPA standard is, which is at 4 parts per trillion. Just to put that in perspective, that is as low as any contaminant out there that municipalities are required to test for. So although it's very low, it is looking like it's above that federal standard. But we would there is a series of tests that we would do in conjunction with the water department as well.
Thank you.
Jim Parrish, the Deputy Utility Director. As Mr. Ferraro indicated, there's been the UCMR5s, which were 2 different tests. They had to be done several months apart. Every utility in the United States had to do the UCMR 5s. The threshold level for PFAS was 4.0 parts per trillion, and the average of what we have is 6.4. However, those levels still are not locked in. There's litigation happening right now, so that 4.0 could be a moving target. As to what our final MCL, which is what we'd be held to, is what the target would be. One of the things that we had discussed with the Ferraro Law Firm is if that target moves and we stay below the threshold of the MCL, do we still recover fees? And the answer was yes.
I'm concerned right now that our residents just heard you tell everybody that our drinking water is contaminated and not safe to drink. So I want to dispel the fact that,
Yes.
that this is not safe drinking water now. I still drink the drinking water. I still drink our utility water. This is a new target that is now being developed, which is why it's potentially going to move.
Correct.
So can we give some reassurance to residents that they can still use our municipal water to shower, drink,
Yes, there are.
cook with?
It's a test that came out that said, hey, we need to test for this. And what the EPA said is once we test for it, then we have to establish a plan of what we're going to do whenever we find out that there's any sort of issues for it. So that's what we've been doing. We've been talking with law firms to be able to establish what we're going to do moving forward.
Excellent. Thank you.
Commissioner Lally, then Commissioner Avila Vasquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Wait, this is for Jim. Don't walk away. I don't want to step on your show, so I want to make sure you affirm what I say, if you agree. So the only way to remove PFAS from municipal water is through like reverse osmosis to get it to zero. That's what I understand.
There's several different treatment options that are available. Reverse osmosis is one, granular activated carbon, green sand, things such as that. Depending upon of what in this area is found and what the actual target number does come out to be will determine what we have to do to change the reflected MCL to get to that target. If the target turns out to be 7.0, then there's not something that we do have to do. That number has yet to be established if it is going to move or if it's not.
In my experience, like with the lead and copper rule revision, that kind of came down the pike from the EPA, and there was very little funding attached to it. And we don't have that big of an issue because we don't have lead service lines for the most part, right?
Correct.
Other cities, I've worked on these programs in other cities, I mean, they had to spend a lot of money to meet that new goal. So it's possible
Correct.
that even if the goal right now was one number, they could come down in 5 years and say, okay, we're cutting it in half.
Or they could come back and they could say that the number that we originally had is not the actual number. Instead of it being 4, it could be 8. So we still don't know what that total number is going to be.
4 is almost as low as you could go.
Yeah, 4 is as low. 4 is as low as you could go.
And this recovered money would help us purchase whatever we need to do in order to meet those new guidelines.
Correct.
So if we don't participate in this, we're on the hook for it.
Correct.
Tax dollars. Got it. Thank you.
Commissioner Avila Vasquez.
I have a question, and I don't want to open up a can of worms, or maybe this is not part of this, but does this include the tests that they have been doing with our water, that they find like little particles of plastic, and what's going on in the other cities with the fluoride?
No, this has nothing
Totally
to do with
different.
fluoride.
Or the plastic?
Not fluoride. That's what PFAS is. PFAS is plastics.
Ah,
Forever
Thank you.
chemicals is what they're called.
thank you.
Vice Mayor Harriet.
I just want to go on the record and say that I think the number should be 0. We regardless of what we find, we need to work towards getting the number down to 0. So I want to put that out there and make sure that we're very clear.
Thank you.
Martha Jess, please.
Martha Jess from DeLand.
You can pull that microphone down.
There, how's that? Okay. I am also very concerned about the PFAS, the forever chemicals that we're beginning to find in our water. And I think this is a very helpful opportunity to go ahead and go through the litigation. I've recently found that our springs, they tested 50 springs around Florida, and that Green Springs and Blue Springs and Gemini Springs tested high. So I think there needs to be more research, but I think it's an opportunity that we can do something to help our citizens and the tourists that come and generations to come, that we clean up our water. Thank you.
Donna Pepin, please.
Hi, I'm Donna Pepin from DeLand, and I've learned recently also that, as she mentioned, the three springs that are right around Deltona tested the highest in Florida for these chemicals, and so they don't know where they come from, but I think it would be foolish not to join this litigation, because that's how you'll pay for the money. And it has tested that it is in it, so we know that it's here. Apparently Lake Helen was tested, but they also have lead pipes. So for them, it will be a fortune. Their whole roads will have to be taken apart because of the lead pipes and that. Yeah, I had heard that reverse osmosis was probably the way that if you do have it, then they would have to do reverse osmosis to get it out. I think that's probably all. Okay.
Albert Bryan, please.
Albert Bryan, Deltona. Three things on this. If all the springs have been tested in our area and they're high, or even testing that they're positive for it, it's a concern. I also know that certain houses in the area were also tested at the same time, and that drinking water tested positive for it as well. Because as of right now, there's no filtration for it in our city. They just began testing for it, matter of fact. Okay. I would be more concerned about this if there was actually something showing where people have gotten sick from it, truly sick from it. What I'm more concerned is that y'all don't do the right thing and go ahead and join this lawsuit. Because anytime you are offered a way to get money and get ahead of the game for retrofitting your water plants, for fixing a problem like this, I think you need to get ahead of the game. If you pass this up and something ends up where money is actually gained from this, then you're not gaining anything at all. Matter of fact, now you're paying for what the federal government will pass by 2027 and effective by 2029. I would be more concerned also if we didn't have a public works that has been testing as of now. But I also know that all of the water departments have been testing. They've had to. So for them to say it's only, this or that, when we don't even know what the regulations are coming, and there's more than one way to actually remove this from your water. So don't just get stuck on one way to remove it. There's more than one way. At the end of the day, what do you want? You want clean water for your children. That's it. It's like a lot of things we come up here and speak at the podium about. We want things better for our children than what they are for us right now. And because I grew up in the 60s, I grew up with a lot of crapola, and I'm still here. But at the end of the day, I still want it better for my children. So my advice is go ahead and vote yes on this, because you're not losing anything. You're not losing anything at all. And you have everything to gain from this. Because sooner or later, the federal government is going to come down with certain regulations, whether it's 4, 6, 8, 10, it doesn't matter. And as you said, at the end of the day, you want it to be at 0. You don't want this in your water for your children. Y'all have a good night.
Kathy Bryan, please.
Good evening, Kathy Bryan, Deltona. It's really scary when you think about the things that are in our water that we don't even realize are there, and there's a lot of them that we can't do anything about. So my question on this is, while the testing's going on, et cetera, and I agree, I think it's probably going to behoove us to do this. But when you look at resolutions for filtering the PFAS out, can we also look at other items that may be in the water where one solution may take care of more than just one thing? So let's think way ahead. Let's think visioning out that. So, and then I'm assuming that any monies that come in from the litigation on this to 3M, DuPont, which makes me shudder when I think of DuPont. But any monies coming in for this is what will be used to make the corrections to the water if we find out those are high. And if we do find out that there's issues, if we still have leftover, which I doubt, if we do find that there's people who are having long-term issues due to this, would there be any consideration of helping them out because of exposure? So that's my questions. Thank you.
That ends public comment.
All right. Can we please vote? Motion passes 7-0.